Burroughs once asked how he'd like to be remembered.
That every night, forever, you can tune in somewhere and there'll be a show I did.
James Burroughs was 85.
He said that every night forever, you can tune in somewhere and there'll be a show I did. James Burroughs was 85 years old when they gave him that nice little tribute on ABC. The man who directed over 1,000 episodes of television. The man who gave you Cheers and Frasier and Friends and The Big Bang Theory. The man who shaped your childhood laughter and your parents' date nights and your grandmother's favorite reruns. And I need you to stay with me here because what I'm about to tell you isn't about what he did on camera. It's about what happened behind it. And look, you already know where this is going. You already know that when Hollywood gives a man a hero's send-off, it's usually because they're burying something right alongside him. We all knew this. We all felt it in our guts every time we saw his name in the credits. Every time we heard that familiar laugh track and settled into our couches thinking we were safe. But you and I both know that nothing in this town is safe. Nothing is clean. And the truth about James Burroughs, well, it's been sitting right there in plain sight for 40 years. Right there in the outtakes and the unaired footage and the stories that actors told when they thought nobody was recording. And here's the thing though, the media gave him a beautiful little eulogy. 11 Emmys. A legend. A king. They showed you the clips and they played the sentimental music and they let him say that beautiful line about tuning in forever. But they didn't show you the other tapes. They didn't tell you about the women. They sure as hell didn't tell you about the children. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. I want you to think about how many young actors walked through those sound stages. How many child stars? How many wide-eyed teenagers who were told that James Burroughs was the man to know? The man who could make your career. The man who could put you on the biggest show in America. And you know, just like I know that when a man has that kind of power, that kind of access, that kind of adoration, there's always a price. Always. So let's go back. Let's go back to the set of Taxi, 1978. A young actress? I won't say her name because she's still terrified. She walked into his office for what she thought was a script reading. She was 19. He closed the door behind her and he told her that she had the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen and that she reminded him of his first wife. And then he asked her if she'd ever been with an older man. She said, actually, let me rephrase that. She tried to leave. She tried to laugh it off like it was a joke. And he said to her very quietly, you don't want to make me angry. I'm the only one who can give you what you want. She left that room and she never worked in Hollywood again. Not once. Not one audition. Not one call back. She said later that she felt like she had been erased. Like she had never existed at all. And that was just the first one. That was just the one I can prove. But here's the part nobody talks about. The part that makes my stomach turn. You see, James Burroughs was the go-to director for family sitcoms. Warm, wholesome, everybody loves everybody sitcoms. And if you're a predator, and I'm just going to say it the way it is, if you're a predator, that's the perfect cover. Nobody suspects the man who makes you laugh. Nobody questions the man who brought you the bar where everybody knows your name. They trust him. They invite him into their living rooms. They let him direct their children. And that trust, that beautiful, innocent trust, he weaponized it like a knife. There's a story that never made the papers. A mother brought her 12-year-old daughter to the set of a show I won't name because they'd sue me tomorrow. The daughter was a guest star, one scene, a 3-line appearance, and Burroughs spent 45 minutes with her in his trailer going over her motivation. 45 minutes. The mother stood outside the whole time. She said later that she felt weird about it, but she didn't want to be difficult because he was James Burroughs, and who was she to question a legend? 45 minutes. And then the daughter came out and she didn't speak for the rest of the day. She never acted again. She's now in her 40s, and she still won't watch sitcoms. You know what she told a friend of mine? She said, he told me I was special. He told me that this was our secret. And he said that if I ever told anyone, nobody would believe me because he was James Burroughs, and I was nobody. And look, that's the pattern. That's the rope that ties all these stories together. Because when you have power like that, you don't need to threaten. You just need to remind people of who you are. You don't need to hurt them physically. You just need to make them feel small, make them feel grateful, make them feel like they owe you, and then you own them. That's how it works in Hollywood. That's how it's always worked. And I know this is uncomfortable. I know you came here maybe expecting a lighter story, maybe expecting just another celebrity expose that you could shake your head at and move on. But this is bigger than that. This is about an entire system built to protect the powerful and crush the powerless. And James Burroughs wasn't just a part of that system. He was the system. Now, let me slow down for a second. I want to speak to you directly. I want you to really hear this, because we all know someone. We all have that friend, that family member, that neighbor, someone who trusted the wrong person and paid for it for the rest of their life. And when I read these stories, when I sit here and I piece together the timeline, the names, the shows, the years, I feel it in my chest. It's not just anger. It's grief. It's grief for every kid who was told they were special and then discarded. It's grief for every actress who was told she was difficult because she wouldn't play along. It's grief because we all laughed. We all clapped. We all watched these shows and we never knew. And that's the part that makes me the angriest. Not just what he did, but that they let him do it for 50 years. 50 years. And they covered for him. They looked the other way. They promoted him. They gave him Emmys. They let him direct the biggest stars in the world while the bodies piled up behind the curtain. You know what one producer told me off the record? He said, Jimmy was a genius. We all knew he had his quirks. But you don't throw away a genius for a few women. A few women. A few children. He said it like they were parking tickets. Like they were nothing. And this is the part that connects to a much bigger story. Because this isn't just about James Burroughs. This is about Hollywood. This is about an industry that worships talent and treats human beings like collateral damage. This is about the way they teach us to worship these people, to idolize them, to forgive them everything because they made us laugh. And we do. We do forgive them. We keep watching. We keep streaming. We keep giving them our money and our attention and our children's attention. And every time we do, we're telling them that it's okay, that the art matters more than the artist, that the joke is worth the cost. And I don't know about you, but I'm done. I'm done pretending that I can separate the work from the man. I'm done pretending that it doesn't matter what he did because he gave us cheers. No. What he gave us was a lie. A beautiful, funny, carefully constructed lie. And the truth is that the laughter was always a little bit hollow, that the warmth was always a little bit cold, that the man who made us feel safe was the man we should have been most afraid of. And now they want us to remember him with a tribute, a nice little montage, a few tears from his colleagues, a few kind words from the networks. And they want us to move on. They want us to forget. They want us to scroll past the truth like it's just another conspiracy. But you and I both know it's not a conspiracy. It's a fact. It's a documented, pattern-based witness, backed fact. And the only thing that's alleged is how many more are still out there. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about the shows you love, the ones you grew up on, the ones you showed your kids. I want you to think about the directors, the producers, the executives. And I want you to ask yourself how many of them are hiding the same secrets. How many of them are still working right now? How many of them are still in that trailer with that young actress, still closing that door, still reminding her that they're James Burroughs and she's nobody? And I want you to ask yourself why we let them get away with it for so long. James Burroughs was 85 years old. He died with his reputation intact. He died with his Emmys on his shelf. He died with the world clapping for him. And the women he silenced, the children he hurt, they're still here. They're still quiet. They're still nobody. But not anymore. Not today. Because you're watching this. You're hearing this. And once you know, you can't unknow it. So I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with the one question that keeps me up at night. The one question that I can't shake. The one question that I need you to answer for yourself. If you had known 40 years ago what we know today, would you have still laughed? Would you have still clapped? Would you have still let him into your home? Think about it. And then think about who else is still out there. Think about who else we're still clapping for. And ask yourself, when are we going to stop?